Welcome to the Vera show, where testimony, reality and truth meet you at the front door. Perspective to propose. Politics, religion, we talk about the real world we live in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it on the Vera show. From purpose, uplift, encourage, inspire, motivate, and let's talk about it on the Vera show. The Vera show.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited about my guest today, Terry Hauser. How are you today?
I'm great, Vera. How are you?
I am awesome. I am just so honored that you're here with me today. And let me share with the audience a little bit about Terry Hauser. She is a visionary entrepreneur, international speaker, holistic healer, and a formidable advocate for survivors of intimate partner violence, which is called IPV. With a career spanning over 30 years as a high level corporate executive and business owner, Terry pivoted 2 decades ago to the healing arts, founding a premier holistic wellness center. Her life work is dedicated to the architecture of restoration, the profound belief that through a holistic approach to self healing, such as sound therapy, hypnosis, bioenergy work, and mindful practice, the human spirit can mend even its deepest fractures. Terry she's also a leading voice for survivors, serving as a trained storyteller for the House of Ruth in Maryland. And we're going to talk about that as well as a whole lot of other stuff. Um, she is, she just completed the Next Top Speaker tournament. This is me. And out of 4,700 international entries, she made top 10 winner's circle. Congratulations on that. And today we're going to be talking about her book, Unmasking the Monster, as well as provide you with some tools and tips and encouragement for those of you who may have experienced partner violence. So, Terry, I'm going to give you the floor and I'm going to ask you to please share a little bit about your childhood. What was it like? How did it impact you? And then we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vera, for such a beautiful introduction. and having me on the Vera Thomas show. So it is an absolute honor to be here and with your audience too. So as a child, I grew up in a blue collar family and in the country. I was a country girl. And I had 5 siblings. And it was a typical, I guess, middle class family. But we had our issues, we had our challenges. I had a mother who I love her dearly, and both my parents have passed. But I loved her dearly, but she was a challenge to work with because back then they used to call it the woman's disease, but she was what they would classify today as manic bipolar. And so that was challenging as a small child growing up. You sort of came in the house with your head ducked low because she liked to throw things. And, and we were country kids, so we were able to get out and, it was safe to go run until supper time. But you always had to be back at supper time. So it was a little challenging growing up as with that kind of personality disorder. It does impact you. And for me, moving in, I seem to, because I'm a healer, natural healer, and I'm a fixer, I fix everything. You seem to draw into you those kind of personalities. And that's a whole other topic, but why do you draw the kind of people that you draw into your life? And unfortunately for me, I drew in 2 men in my life that were narcissistic in nature. And but both of those individuals had their own challenges at home. And so this is where, when you start looking at what generates this type of person, not everybody can adjust to it and those kind of things. The one with my first husband, we built an empire together. We literally built an empire together. And but then when my parents got really sick, first my dad died, and then 11 and a half months later, my mother died. And she had a very traumatic death. She had gotten surgery for her spine, and then E. coli seeped into, fecal matter seeped into her open wound. And what it did was eat away at the nervous system and all the muscle tissue around her spine. So it was like 24/7 with her, because every time things happened with her, she downgraded, or the E. coli mutated would be a better way of describing it. And so it would be starting all over from scratch again. So my ex-husband at the time, I thought he was coming to support me, but on her deathbed, I get this text over back then we used Blackberries, over my Blackberry, and it said, I want a divorce because you love too much.
What? You love too much? Is there such a thing?
Exactly. And I'm like, here, I need support from you. But he couldn't. But he was raised where he had a father that resented him because his mother got pregnant when they were very young, and his father wanted to go into the priesthood. And so he blamed him for that. And he mistreated him, in his youth. And at the point where when he was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 4 or 5, he threw him out of a moving truck.
Oh my God. Now,
So
did you know this stuff before you married him?
no,
Okay.
these kind of things come out afterwards, you know. And then fast forward to the one that I wrote the book about.
Right. Let me pull up the book.
Yeah, when this it started out like, oh, you know, this is the one kind of relationships, and you know, but he did come to me. This is when I had my holistic center. I had opened it, and he came and found me. A lot of the people who find me through the word of mouth, and found me because he had cirrhosis of the liver, and he was up for getting dialysis, kidney dialysis. And so he wanted to take a holistic approach because that seemed to have been a cycle he couldn't get out of. And, you know, everybody, when they come to you, they give you only half of the story or the sparkling side of the story.
Right, right.
And this was just a couple months before COVID. And we got him on a regimen. We did, you know, infrareds. There's a whole protocol you could take where you can start flushing out your system for the detoxing. And we got him really good. And he even got a good bill of health. And then, you know, COVID hits, you know, and that story about all his childhood things came out afterwards during that time frame when you're locked up with somebody. And then when he got that clean bill of health, and then he started, there was some symptoms I was noticing on him. And I says, I think we need to get you, you know, some more blood work done on you to check it out. And then he was diagnosed at that point with stage 3 cancer.
Oh, wow.
Now that seemed to be his trigger for his personality shift. And that's when he started, you know, it's very gradual in the beginning. And then he would just offhandedly start telling me things about himself and his family, and like things that I would do. I put on a dress one time, and he goes, "Oh, I wore one of those once." And he says, that's because he wet the bed, and his mother disciplined him by putting a dress on him.
Oh my goodness.
And then made him sit out on the front steps so his friends would make fun of him.
Oh my goodness.
And this is what I'm talking about, generation, you know, it's handed down. And his mother one time, no, I was cooking stewed beef. A stew, and it was a little thick because I like to make a dry stew. And he looked at it and he said, "You know what? That looks like what my aunt used to feed me." And I says, "Well, was it good?" And he goes, "It was Elpo." And when he would criticize her cooking, she would put him down in the dog cage in the basement and feed him Elpo.
Oh my God. And you know, 60% of adults who have unresolved issues, they stem from their childhood. Later on, I want to talk about how do we help people kind of get a feel for who they're dealing with before they jump into an intimate relationship.
Yes.
You know, because there were things about my ex-husband I had no idea about until after we were married, and his mother shared after the fact. I was like, if I had known that, you know, but anyway, I'm sorry, but
that's okay. No, it's like, so you're right. You're absolutely correct. There is like red flags, but see, all of this happened. All my red flags started to appear after he had already been into the house. He came into my territory, and then COVID hit, and nobody was going anywhere at that time. And so he he got, once in a while, he got a little bit more aggressive, the way he would talk. And then when we go into total shutdown, and that was in March of 2020, my business, he was a chef, okay, at a restaurant. He lost his job. And then that's when like everything started to hit the fan, and the craziness that was happening. I can remember the first time he got really violent, and he was out walking, and he came back into the house, and I was cooking, and our stove was right next to this window, and I was staring out the window just waiting, cooking. And he thought I was looking out at somebody and signaling them. And then paranoia started to kick in. He's showing signs of paranoia. And the insecurities was ridiculous. But the next thing I knew, he had me around the throat and had me slammed up against the refrigerator. And at the time I had this little chihuahua, and he bit into his leg. And that distracted him enough that I could break myself free. And then he grabbed the dog and threw the dog across the living room and knocked the dog out. But then that's the story that came out, that he had put, when he was a small child, I think he was like 13, he had hung the neighbor's cat in the basement. Oh. And threw their dog in the microwave.
Oh my God.
So, and I'm just, and his sister, she says, you're lucky that you still have your dog. And it's like, whoa. Talk about red flags.
Yes.
Anything about this. And we'll talk a little later about it. But then I had found out he had protective orders out against him when he was a teenager.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I'm an advocate for getting a national registry. If you have a protective order that is definitely against, domestic violence and stuff like that, that should never go away, because when you do a background check, that'll show up. And right now there is nothing like that for if you want to check out to see what kind of record the person has. And so I'm an advocate for, creating something of that nature, just like, now it's, for dogs, if you're, you abuse dogs or anything like that. And I used to tell him when he would get out of hand, I said, I could call and get somebody here if you touch my dog.
I know that's right. I know that's right. I want to recognize one of our guests here at D Corp triple or quad 0. And I think he's saying there's a Zeus. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Is that a platform where you can find out information? Can you tell us a little more about this, please? And thank you for being here. And please share, like, subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. Okay. So I just want, when people come on, I like to acknowledge them. So go ahead.
Okay. So during the COVID, a lot of platforms weren't functional or weren't working because nobody knew how to handle it. Like, you couldn't call, first off, and I'm going to digress here a little bit. What he did when he would go anywhere, he would take my phone, my car keys, and my wallet all the time. He would, there was no way I was going anywhere. And so getting in touch with people during COVID was very hard and difficult. Making any kind of phone calls. The first 6 months was a pure nightmare. And and I go into, in the book itself, I go into a lot of detail of the different things that you experienced. Everybody was afraid, you had neighbors, but nobody, everybody was afraid to come outside. he came and went all the time because he was always checking on his mother, who was an elderly woman.
Mm.
So that was my time of peace.
Yes, I can imagine.
But he had a rough upbringing, and I think he didn't know how. I don't think he knew how to love, because I never seen that kind of love within that family.
Mm.
It's and even when it come down to loyalty, I mean, it would go so far, but it just didn't exist. It just didn't exist. And his sisters, I got along with his sisters and everything, but they wouldn't, it was like they wanted to tell me something, but they couldn't tell me something.
Wow.
And so it kept me in the dark for the longest time. And so I had to get creative, and one time I did escape and get out the back door, because there was a police substation nearby us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, if I could just get down to that substation, and I'm go out the back door. He goes out the front door to go to his mother. So it gives me an opportunity here. So I go down this wooden path, and I'm like beelining it down. And, I could just, all I could think of is, if I could get through the doors, I would be safe. And I get to the doors, and then there's a big old sign on that door. It says closed for COVID.
Oh,
Go
God.
to station, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
And
God.
all I could do is like sit down on the curb and cry. And then the next thing I know, he pulls up in the car, and says, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. They closed that about a couple of weeks ago." So he was monitoring. So there was something up inside that he was conscientious about what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking now, how do you deal with something like that? Where do you begin?
Right.
Because obviously I'm not going to get any kind of help right now, because there's nothing available. So
What impact did it have on you going through this stuff? Physically, did you have any physical conditions as a result of the stress that was caused by this? And I'm
we
sure
did
there was a bunch of emotional stuff going on.
Well, not only emotional, he was physically abusive. So there was one time that there was a storm coming in, and my phone was flashing. And after about the third or fourth time the phone was flashed, he got irate. And he says, "You have someone," and he says, "You have a secret lover, and they're texting you."
Oh,
So
God.
he grabs my phone. Instead of looking to see what was flashing, he would have seen it was a weather alert. But he took that phone and he beat my face. And he busted my lip. I have like permanent bruises on this cheek. The darkness broke so many vessels in the cheek area. And then he tore off all my clothes. And so he had grabbed my neck. So I had like these big scratches across my neck and everything. And then took and beat my hands. So I couldn't, they swelled up. And yeah, I had some pretty, that was just one of many. And
Oh, my goodness. Did you ever
and
press
it's all,
charges?
well, that's part of the story, is that later on, when the House of Ruth, thank God for the House of Ruth, because when I finally did, it took me a year and a half to get through. And when I finally got through to the House of Ruth and got someone to work with me, with the therapist and their legal team, we designed it so that all the paperwork was in place, because there's so much paperwork that you have to get in place. And so all of the paperwork was in place. And so when I pulled the trigger, when I could get out safely, they were more worried about me getting out alive, because understand, a person in this situation, it takes maybe 7 to 10 times before you can get out. And just like I got out to go to the police station, that was probably my 3rd attempt. And otherwise, it was like he had radar on me. For the weirdest reasons, he always knew where I was at. And then later on, I found that he bugged. He had little devices. He had a friend that was a PI and was giving him these devices and putting them in. And so I had to start devising a plan. I had to strategize all the time. I had to strategize. When he was away, I knew the windows of time that I had. And so I sewed money in my coat linings, the coats at the time that I was wearing. And so he wouldn't be suspicious of what was going on. And I had bug out bags, and I had stuck one the first time underneath my wheel well in my Jeep, and he found it. He would constantly go through my stuff, and he found it. And the next time, then I had a permanent one hid out in the backyard, and a baggie, which I knew he wouldn't open because he would have thought it was trash, and he didn't want to like taking the trash out, So I kept it out there in his baggie, and he never knew I had it. So if I could get out the back door and down the steps, I could grab it and keep on going. So you have to strategize. And in the book, I had the whole guideline on what you need to be doing. If you're in a situation out there, folks, now it's different. For me, I was dealing with COVID. And so trying to get even a police officer. And here's a story for you. The neighbor saw him trying to push me out the upstairs window. Okay. And so she called him. She called the police and had them come. Now the police came to the door, and when he opened the door, he was blocking me. He always blocked me. They wouldn't come in the house. They wouldn't. They would come up onto the porch, but they wouldn't come into the house. And so he started going, I got COVID. They immediately pulled up their masks and stepped away and off of the perch, the porch. So it's like, it was like constantly there is some kind of interruption all the time. And he was a master at manipulating. He knew exactly what to say. It's like almost like he was reading their mind or whatever. And there was a female officer and a male officer at the time. And I tried to pull open the blind to look around him to see if I could catch their attention. And he jerked me back. And she caught that. And so she says, I want to talk to your wife. And so he goes, okay. And he turns his body just enough so she could see my head. And I was trying to give her this eye contact because I know if they weren't going to do anything, I was going to pay hell for it at the end of this. And so then she handed me this pamphlet. And, for domestic, what do they called it? Domestic disputes coordinator or something like that. She says, maybe somebody needs to talk, and they do this over Zoom and telephones. So maybe you guys just need to know how to work out your problems. And as soon as he closed the door, he tore that thing up, tore her card up, and threw it away. So that's when, I'm thinking, okay, so this is not going to get me anywhere. So, and when you go through so many of those that did not successfully get contact with, you have to start strategizing for yourself. It's all about survival. It's like day to day, it's survival. And then it gets to the point where it's like you have AM survival and PM survival. You know, there is one time when when I was sleeping out of the dead of sleep, he pulls me out of the bed with my ankles.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
dragged down the steps. You know, I mean, there's so many things. You know, it gets violent, more violent, and
Get the book. Get the book. Okay. Let me put the book back, and you can get it on Amazon. It's on Amazon
yeah,
now.
it's on Amazon. You can also get it off of my website, www.tnh
Yes.
or tnhauser at
Yes.
.com.
Yes. Here's her website, www.tnhauser.com. You want to check out her book. Her story and all the things. The beauty of it is you do give a blueprint.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so I don't want you to share every component of your blueprint.
Yeah.
However, I do want you to share something just in case there's a woman out here or even a man, because domestic
Yes.
violence is on both sides. I
Yes.
mean,
Male and
men
female,
are abused
just
just
as much.
yes,
Yes.
yes, and they're silent about it,
Right. Right.
just well, everybody's silent about it. But
Right.
if you can give us, and
Sure.
before we do that, now I think your net was, I don't know if this is your niece or your nephew, but they say, love you, Aunt Terry.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm not sure if it's a male or a female, but great. Okay. Um, s- okay, so I'm going to put some of these blueprints in the chat because it is just neither one of us can express enough
No.
of number one, be aware
Hmm.
and try to find out as much as you can about the people that you're about to be intimate with. And we got another comment coming in. Okay. Amazing for your courage. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing for your courage.
Thank you.
So, okay.
So there is a cycle, and this is sort of like, and this is probably the first red flag in any kind of relationship, because even in my practice with hypnosis and stuff like that, narcissism is no joke. Okay, it is like they're leading you along. They're going to mirror you. They're going to tell you everything that you want to know. It's going to like, this is the person. This is the person. But hold up on that. It's because once they lead you through that gate of hell and they slam it shut, you're stuck. It is such a vicious, vicious cycle. And it goes like this. The tension builds up and you'll have your little spats. Then there is an incident. And when I talk about incident, it's usually something a little bit more than a nudge. Okay. Don't ignore a slap in the face, or don't ignore a punch in the arm, or a jerk, or your hands, or held back or whatever. That's a red flag. And then it drops down to, oh, I'm so sorry, baby.
I'll never do it again.
I don't know what got into me. Okay. And you go through this cycle, and then there's a calm, and you've got this, okay. He really did mean it. He did mean he was sorry. No, because then something builds up again and it starts becoming a cycle. When that cycle escalates and it starts happening on a more frequent basis, that is a major get out. Get out, because the statistic is 7 to 10 times you will attempt your escape. When you attempt it, the more you attempt it, the more violent they get. And I can tell you, it gets violent. I had one where he had duct taped a knife to his hand because if he got blood on himself, he didn't want to drop that knife. Now, is that premeditated or what?
Yes.
So
Wow.
that's how bad. And 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are killed with domestic violence.
Yes.
IPV.
Yes. And in my opinion, if they hit you one time, that's one too many.
Mhm.
If they verbally abuse you one time, that's one too many.
Mhm.
If they are emotionally abusive to you one time, that's one too many.
Mhm. Yep.
Because if they did it once, they're going to do it again. And it may be months from the first time, it may be weeks, it may even be a year, but just know it's going to happen. All right. I just had to say that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you are listening, or if you listen to, or when you listen to the replay, please take heed to what we're saying.
Yes.
We have choices. We can choose not to allow ourselves to stay in those situations. And sometimes, just as Terry just indicated, she tried so many times before
Mhm.
it actually happened. That's why we are suggesting that you look at the red flags,
Mhm.
ask questions during the course of your relationship. You might even ask, what was your childhood like? you know, you might want to
Yeah.
ask that question.
Like, do you have any strange stories?
Right. Ah, exactly. I'm telling you, we're laughing, but this is
But
not a
it's not
laughing
funny.
matter.
It's not funny.
This is not a laughing matter.
No, it's
It's
not funny.
serious. And
Mhm.
now, with all the stresses that people are feeling now, the unemployment, the high gas, the high, we're
Cost of
paying higher
food.
for
Yes.
yes,
Cost of
that,
living. Yeah.
yes, that's going to trigger some things with some
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
So, all right, I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is
That's
just,
okay. But it's very, and that's why when we won't even talk, we can talk about the recovery end of this after you come out of it, but just to stabilize yourself, because I lived in it, I had to figure out, and thank God for the stuff that I know, because that's what saved me and my sanity. you know um you had to keep yourself calm, and he was so jealous of the fact that I was still working. I was working, and we won't even talk about, my clients knew nothing about this, and they could probably attest to it. They knew nothing was going on in the house of terror that I was living in, because I couldn't let on.
right.
And I was dealing
Exactly.
with their fears, and then the jealousy kicked in, because why would you help them and you're not helping me? It's like, I am helping you. I'm keeping you alive, buddy. I'm helping you keep healthy, so that cancer doesn't go into stage 4, because the doctor said you got to keep it, the levels. You're going to have to change your diet and stuff like that. But what he ended up doing was, he got into addictions, because the pain that the cancer generated in his body and stuff like that, which was insane, because you would think he would become weaker. But I think the street drugs that he was taking was giving him that energy. And so now I was dealing with another war,
Hmm.
just not his personality. Now I'm dealing with his drug addiction, and trying to keep him healthy, so we can get this, the surgery to get him in, just to get, so we knew exactly what we were dealing with, because you couldn't, all the surgery, the operating rooms and everything was shut down. So
Hmm.
COVID was just a nightmare, a
Yeah.
different caliber for me.
Yes. How long were you with this man?
Um, a total of 2.5 years.
Okay. And I would venture to say that it took 2.5 years or longer for you to get back to yourself.
Yes, yes. Actually,
Month.
writing this book was my biggest therapy. Is I
Yes.
started out just writing journals, and how I was feeling, what I was thinking, because you get flashbacks. A lot of things are flashbacks. And so, we're just reliving it. And I know, the speeches that I did, you heard me, but
Yes.
that was a major trigger for me because I was battling that flashback when I was telling those stories during that speech. I was reliving it.
Yes.
Reliving it.
That's why you became top 10. Because people could feel what you were saying.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, you were living it, you've overcome it. But when you are sharing, the emotions come back. Because I mean, I understand. I was in mine for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally took me 3 years to get back to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
going from being confident and self-assured and all those things that we were
Right. Mm-hmm.
to no confidence, no self-esteem, all
Right.
over again. So,
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle that you have in your recovery is the guilt and the shame, because I battled that an entire time. How could I be so stupid? I kept on like, how can I be so stupid to fall victim to this? And I know better, but that whole adage, love is blind.
yeah.
That was the problem in the very beginning. But when I realized I was in hell, I'm like, oh no. And we won't even, I mean, we could even address that. I think when he slipped back into the drug addiction, there was something else because his eyes would just turn black and that's how you knew
That was
something was going to
Satan.
coming. Oh my gosh. Even the dog would growl, because when he would come in and you would look at him and you go, oh boy, I'm in for it now, because you seen it in his face, his
Mhm.
eyes, his face would
Mhm.
contort. He wasn't the same person.
He
And
was
then you turn
that was
around,
Satan, honey.
oh my
You know?
gosh, you know but it's like when he was good. And that's another, ladies and gents out there, when they're good, then you should be more cautious, especially when you've got all these other things happening, because that's just your calm in that cycle, that vicious cycle. It's just the calm, you know,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
will come right back up, you know.
Yes. Well, I have a commercial I need to play,
Sure.
and
Mhm.
then we'll come back and continue this conversation. So
Sure.
let me pull this up right quick. Okay.
Mama Knows creates high quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products, because Mama knows what you need.
They are wonderful. The hair products, shampoos, conditioners, elixirs, you name it for your hair, she's got it. And they work. And they smell great. So I want you to check out mamaknowsproducts.com. Why? Because Mama knows what you need. So check it out. Check it out. All right. All right. Let me bring us back up here. And okay, I'm trying to get my big face off of here so that we can be together again. Um, what happened? Okay. when you are doing this everything by yourself. Okay. All right. Anyway, I want us. What happened to the? All right. Anyway, keep talking. let me find what I'm
Figure it
looking
out.
for.
So
Okay, here we are. Okay,
there we
great.
go.
Okay, so go ahead.
So when you recover, you need to really don't dive into wallowing, because wallowing will just keep you stuck, and I think, unfortunately, with my background, 30 years, you learn how to mitigate, and you also learn how to do risk management, and you're doing that an entire time while you're in it. But afterwards, then it's just the restoring process. And I was really into meditation, and I did sound therapy, and during the whole time of that experience, I was even doing self-hypnosis just to keep my self calm, because I noticed that if I could talk him down. If I was calm, I could talk him down. It wasn't
Wow.
always successful, but if he would take me off guard, I would lose my. I got fighter mode. I got into fighter mode, and when you get into fighter mode, it just makes things worse.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to be able to talk it down, and so within my story, I give all the little tips after each episode, like, understand this is what was really going on. And it's like, you have to step back and take a look at what's going on, and keeping your wits about yourself. So coming
Yes.
after the end of it, I woke up to a gun to the back of my head. And at the time, I felt I felt the metal. And I woke up and I'm like, wait a second. I had enough. I'm tired of walking on eggshells. And so when you get to that point, that's the trigger. Get out, because your adrenaline is so high at that time that regardless of what he's doing, he was not used to me fighting back, and that's when I had a lamp right next to me because we were in bed, and I took the lamp and I just went. And I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. And I had staged everything within the house. If any of those moments, and this is what the House of Ruth did with me, they taught me these things. This is what you got to do. Because in your mindset, you're not thinking right. The stress level has your brain just scattered. And so you need to have that person that helps you through this and understands it. And we didn't focus on my issues until after I got out. They
Right.
were only concerned about getting me out alive,
Mm-hmm.
and when I had my shoes, my dog, my purse, and I ran down the hallway, and you could hear my feet flapping on the hall, and got into the elevator, and boom, down into my car. And I drove away from everything. And that's the real key, is that when you get out of it, you leave it all behind you.
Yes. Yes.
You,
Don't go through the coulda, shoulda, woulda, oughta, hadda. You know,
that's right.
it's in the past, and
That's
there's
right.
nothing, it's over.
Right.
So there's no need to dwell on it. And
Right.
there's no need to beat yourself up because of this.
Because
You
it
had no
wasn't right.
idea what you were jumping into. Most
Mhm.
of us have no idea what we're jumping into.
Mhm.
So don't beat yourself up, and
Yeah.
don't look back. Don't look back. It's over. It's done. It's over.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's what I did. I just kept on driving. I got to safety, and I knew that because he was finding all my things. So they had all my paperwork ready. So all I had to do is meet up with them, get the paperwork, go to the court, get it in, and this is how the God works in my favor all the time. The judge I got used to be one of their lawyers. And she told him if he did not agree to all the paperwork and sign it, because he was starting to give that whole manipulative, show of his. And she said she wasn't having it. And she said, if you don't do this, you don't sign these documents, I'm taking this case away from her and I'm putting it to the state. And then it goes criminal. So that's how God works in my
Yes.
realm. And and then we went. He stalked me for a while after, and so we had to go through and get a concealed address. And there are so many things available now that I didn't know about because I didn't know where to turn. I didn't come from this. I grew up in the country, and yeah, we had our issues, but I never experienced this level of anything of this nature. And so I was just a babe in the woods. And so I did a lot of research, and all I had to do is get somebody to answer the phone. That was my challenge, because I only had small little windows to do things until he was back in. And even if I had my phone, because, we don't have landlines anymore,
Right.
we have cell phones. And so we're at the mercy of these electronics,
Yes.
and just trying to get in touch with somebody. And yeah, I would get online and I would send these messages and emails out to these organizations. I need help. Can someone help me? And get no response. So nowadays it's different. And I think, with like my mission right now is make things more aware about IPV. And now you see the commercials, when you need help, you put your thumb and you cover your thumb, and that's a signal that person needs help. So pay attention to this, folks.
I didn't know that.
That's a signal that I need help. And they even teach us to children too. This is a signal you're in a situation that you need to get out of. It's not safe.
And that's something that parents should teach their kids.
Kids, exactly. Yeah. Because if you make people more aware of it, then it'll become second nature. And when I was going through it, the neighbors, they could hear through the walls. But do you think they would help? They stay in their own lane. You can't stay in your own lane when this kind of violence is going on.
When you see something, say something.
Exactly. So it's like, don't stay in your lane. If nothing else, just make the phone call. Just make that phone call. And if you do see this, then try to help other people, try to get them away from it.
Yes.
Because you don't know, you might be the only person that person has been able to get through to.
Yes. And I'm telling you, we're in critical times. And in fact, there's been an increase in PVP as well as okay. Thank you.
IPV. That's okay.
Thank you. There's been an increase in that, and also domestic violence as a whole has increased significantly, especially now. And so what are some of the other signs or things that people need to consider? One, let's talk about, before you get into this, let's look at what might be some red flags.
Anger issues, number one.
Anger issues, absolutely.
Yeah, and it could, and it's not violent outbreaks either. If there is this constant back and forth, this bickering, this criticism, I don't care how good looking they are. They can be a monster. Don't bring a monster into your life.
Yes.
And it's the only description that they'll turn you into it's just bad. Don't let the
Yes.
monster in your life. Don't let them in your life.
Don't let them in. But, and telltale signs, just looking at, how are they talking to you? Are they
Yes,
calling you out of your name?
right.
Are you this person and this and anything but your name? I broke up with a guy because he called me a knucklehead. And I'm like, I'm done. Because you call me a knucklehead now, you get
Yeah.
angry with me and I'm something else.
Yeah,
So
be
yeah.
careful the time when he's calling you princess and queen, and then the next word when he gets upset with you is the B word,
Yes.
or the S word, or
Yes.
because I would get a whole string of them when he was angry.
Mm-hmm.
That was after he was already his way gone. But it's yeah, you just, if they're disrespectful in any way, shape, or form,
Yes. Get
they're
away.
not they're not worth it. They're
It's
not worth
not.
it. And
It's
and get used to understanding, be comfortable with yourself. Because I hear the story, oh, I get so lonely, I want the hugs, I want the kisses, I want all that. Well, honey, you don't know what it feels like when you get a fist into your face, or
yes.
our broken jaw. He broke my fingers, he dislocated my shoulder. It's like, it's not worth it.
It's
It's not worth
not.
it. The
It
first
is
time
not.
the first time they become disrespectful, hit the
Yes.
just hit the highway and go.
Yes. Yes. Establish your boundaries. Understand what you will and will not accept. And
Mhm.
no matter how much you may love the person,
Yeah, it's not.
it's not worth it. It's
Yeah,
not worth it. And
yeah. Now, there's one thing that part of the healing process for me, I had to forgive him
yes.
because the anger was eating me alive. And so I had to forgive him. And when we went into court, I asked that he be mandated psychiatric evaluation, and um, and that he gets help. He needed therapy help. Now, I tried to find him anger management therapy while we were in COVID, and he just laughed. I mean, he would just go through because just to keep me pleased, but it's just, he would laugh at it afterwards, because he knew more than they knew. And that's the whole attitude. So also, if someone knows that they need help and he had anger issues, and ignore it, it's another one that you just get out. Just get out of that
Yes.
relationship. And right now it's easy because there is no lockdown.
Right.
But, live by my wisdom words, because I can tell you, when you are locked down with somebody, it is not that easy. And I think the question I hate most from people when they say, well, why didn't you get out sooner? Well, tell you what, when you're going out the door and you get swung around now, and I don't care, and I'm not a little woman here either, but it's like, when the masculine will always overpower you. Doesn't make a
And
difference.
especially if they're angry or even because they
Right.
get added strength.
Mm-hmm.
Woo.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And when you've got, and every time you turn around, he loved knives. There was a knife somewhere. So it's like, I'm not going to be silly either. I'm in survival mode, and so I'm going to pick and choose what I'm going to do. But when I tried to tell, like when he broke my fingers and I went into the hospital, I tried to tell the nurse, well, they didn't want to have anything to do with it. It's like, well, honey, you better get out of that situation. So now I've sat on a lot of committees and changing a lot of policies,
Good.
and getting those changes. But, and it's called a warm handoff, so when you're in the medical field, go ahead and tell them, if you come into those situations and you're listening to this, tell them you need help out.
Yes.
Because mine would go to all my visits. He wanted to control the narrative. Okay. So you just tell them any little inch. You can tell the secretary, you can tell anything. Now the medical field has what they call a warm handoff. So they will put you in touch before you leave that office with a specialist that's an advocate for these very things.
And you know what? We are out of time. I can't believe it. But what I want, thank you so much. And thank you for the wisdom that you brought into this topic, women and men. If
Yes.
you feel some kind of way regarding your relationship and it's uncomfortable for you, get out.
Get out.
Just figure out a way to get out. If it's not feeling right, it's probably not right. So thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you,
Thank you.
Terry.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm going to have you come back. You've got another book
Absolutely.
that's in the making.
Yes.
So we'll be talking about that as well. And with that, I will see you all on Thursday. God bless you. And I'm going to put you down for a minute and then come back to you. So with that, good night. God bless. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Let's talk about it. On the Vera Show. The Vera Show.